I like how KJP makes me feel. She gives me confidence that I could do that job. Former Biden press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre announced that she's writing a tell-all book about the Biden administration. In response, people are saying, thanks, but I just wanted a Big Mac. And when Joe Biden was asked if he's going to read the book, he replied, over my soon-to-be dead body.
She had no idea that stepping into that press briefing would end with Greg Gutfeld turning her talking points into a late-night roast. One moment, Karine Jean-Pierre was tossing out classic White House word salad. The next, she was being flambéed on live TV. Gutfeld didn't just critique her, he hosted a full-blown barbecue and brought extra sauce. If you've ever wanted to watch a press secretary get fact-checked with punchlines sharper than her heels, you're in for a politically incorrect masterpiece.
All right, so Karine Jean-Pierre wrote a book, and her fans are already sharpening their crayons. And it's just what we need, a tell-all from the woman who spent 2 years telling everyone that Joe just had a cold and not rigor mortis. If the title hadn't already been taken, it should be called Art of the...
Karine Jean-Pierre enters the press briefing room every day like she's auditioning for a Broadway musical called Deflect, Distract, and Derail. The tap dancing years. Unfortunately, this show comes with no choreography, just a stack of cue cards, an empty binder, and the political finesse of a sock puppet trying to host Jeopardy!
AP also says she's leaving the Democratic Party. I say God bless her. Not many people have the patience to wait in a line that long. In her book, she says the White House was broken. This after 2 years along a president who wasn't housebroken. But she only realized this after she stopped getting paid to defend it. But like Jake Tapper's book, it's a new genre of Biden tell-alls that should be subtitled, I had no idea because I'm severely retarded.
By now, watching her spin facts is like watching a cat try to be chaotic, unnecessary, and ending in a lot of flailing and denial. Gutfeld didn't so much obliterate her as casually glance her way before she melted like a Dollar Tree candle under a heat lamp. This wasn't a debate. It was a mercy roasting.
She realizes she was carrying water for a man whose brain was as wet as his pants. Remember, this is the same broad who stared America in the face and said this.
Comments were made in that report about that, obviously about his memory that we don't believe lives in reality.
80's the new 40, didn't you hear? He is as sharp as ever. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith.
And it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering.
Is anyone in the White House hiding information about the president's health or his ability to do the job day to day?
Absolutely not.
He's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with him.
Let's be honest. Karine Jean-Pierre is the human equivalent of that automated voice you get when yelling representative into your phone. She's the political version of hitting every red light on the way to work. Ask a direct question, and she channels the spirit of non-answers past, delivering statements that loop back on themselves like a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah, you couldn't keep up with Joe. Sorry, Joe couldn't keep up with FDR in the 100-yard dash. And I'm talking right now.
Damn.
But she expected us to believe she couldn't keep up with the guy who had to have an electric fence put up around the White House so he wouldn't in the neighbor's yard.
Bless Greg Gutfeld, armed with nothing but sarcasm and a functioning frontal lobe, basically the two things that send Karine into full Windows XP reboot mode. When it comes to delivering real information, she has the accuracy of a broken weather app and the urgency of a DMV worker on lunch break.
So was Karine too dumb to notice Biden was a mess, or was she just dishonest? Pick your poison, moron or mercenary. Now there's a great name for her book. I'm going with mercenary, because this whole book tour didn't spring from a burst of guilt. According to Politico, she was copying her publicist on emails while still press secretary. So she was planning this from the podium. She's like a pilot who puts on his parachute and oxygen mask while your plane's leaving the airport.
Credit where it's due. No one dodges a question like Karine. If avoiding accountability were an Olympic sport, she'd have more gold than Michael Phelps. Gutfeld just lit the match she combusted without warning. Fact-checking her isn't even necessary. Just ask if her sentences ever land on a point. Spoiler, they don't. And the best part, Gutfeld didn't need fireworks, just a sarcastic grin and a few well-timed Karine was one misstep away from citing SpongeBob as a source. Watching her spiral was like listening to someone explain cryptocurrency to a houseplant, confusing, pointless, and somehow we all left dumber. You'd think, after months of flubbing, answers and mixing up inflation, climate change, border policy, and whatever else was trending, she'd evolve a strategy. But nope, she sticks to the classics. Dodge, pivot, blame the last guy, sprinkle in buzzwords, and pray no one asks a follow-up. She's a live-action magic. 8-ball, shake her up and hope something vaguely related comes out. Gutfeld didn't need notes. Her incompetence was the presentation. Her job is communication, and yet she has the verbal range of a toaster. Every answer is like watching a hamster solve a Rubik's Cube, panicked, determined, and going absolutely nowhere.
It wasn't a crisis of faith, it was a business plan. She didn't leave the Democrat Party. She managed her exit like Pelosi dumping stocks before she signs the corporate tax hike. She was even pining for a spot on The View, which is like angling for the best seat in a garbage truck. But she didn't get the gig, probably because she refused their lunch bucket of thawed mackerel. That's what you feed the talent at SeaWorld.
Let's not pretend this is new. Karine Jean-Pierre has been dodging accountability since day one. If she were any more evasive, she'd be in the witness protection program under the alias, "Not My Job." Her idea of prep probably involves putting on glasses for serious mode and stapling together random charts like she's giving a TED Talk in a universe where facts are optional. What does she bring to the table? A binder so massive it probably needs a building permit, but every time she opens it, it's like reading the ingredients on a shampoo bottle, vague, confusing, and seemingly unrelated to the problem. Gutfeld saw that binder and probably thought she was moonlighting as a gas station librarian. And it's bad, so bad that even Gutfeld, the king of exaggeration, didn't need to stretch the truth. She claimed the border was secure while it looked like a Walking Dead season finale. She insisted the economy was booming on the same day eggs were priced like iPhones. At this point, reality is just that distant cousin she waves to from across the political buffet.
Even the most reliable lefties are roasting her, but it serves them right. After all, she was their pick, a historic first. Black, lesbian, and board certified by visiting angels. But you know it's bad when DC operatives call it a grift. Hell, that's like Taylor Swift calling you a 6. But they say that she was ineffectual, unprepared, needed to be coddled, and couldn't manage a team. What's that sound like? DEI. What happens when you hire someone based on identity and not merit?
And the excuses, dear sweet democracy. The excuses. Everything is someone else's fault. If a meteor hit DC, Karine would blame climate change, white supremacy, the Supreme Court, and Gutfeld's eyebrows in that order. Watching her redirect, blame is like catching a toddler red-handed with crayon on the wall, insisting, "The crayon did it." Gutfeld, ever the patient sadist, didn't even interrupt, he just let her talk herself into oblivion. Layering word salads so thick a vegan would weep at some point. You don't even need to debate Karine, you just hand her a mic and let the nonsense collapse under its own weight. And the kicker, she still acts like she's winning the room. Sis, you're not even winning your binder. Every page you flip is another chapter in the How Not to Be a Press Secretary manual. She could publish it tomorrow as 50 Shades of Spin. There's a reason Gutfeld didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He treated the whole thing like a comedy bit because that's exactly what it was. Karine Jean-Pierre is the only person who can turn a yes or no question into a 3-part miniseries. Nobody asked for. She talks in loops so tight, even Google Maps would say, "You're on your own."
Personally, I think what was the toughest thing to see in the 3 weeks was there was a disconnect for me. What was happening with leadership in the Democratic Party and how it was truly, as my former colleague, communications director Ben LeBolt said, it was a firing squad, and I had never seen anything like it before.
And then there's the smug confidence, the kind you only get when you truly believe that reading a memo is the same as solving a crisis. Her face says, "I've got this," but her answers scream 400 for policy not found. Gutfeld didn't need to dunk on her with facts. She imploded under her own incoherence. At one point, she tried to explain inflation with a metaphor about kitchen tables and family dinners. Because nothing screams economic insight like story time with Miss Karine. Little Timmy can't afford juice, must be those pesky Republicans, right? Meanwhile, Gutfeld just smirked, watching the train wreck like it was a magic trick where the magician keeps dropping the cards. And who could blame him? Every word out of her mouth is a firework of failure, bright, loud, and empty. She's not the press secretary anymore. She's the excuse secretary. Her entire strategy is built on the hope that if she talks long enough, we'll forget the question. And sometimes, it works mostly because we're all trying to figure out if she's speaking English or reciting lines from a political Mad Libs.
The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has.
There's a word for that. Pathological.
And then there are those fleeting moments when Karine tries to channel Obama-level gravitas, those dramatic pauses. That faux solemn tone and ends up sounding like someone reading a cereal box with the intensity of a Shakespeare monologue. Today, we reaffirm our commitment to communities and strength, and equity, and boxes, and windows, double quotes. Next question. Gutfeld didn't bring fire, he brought a mirror. And what a horrifying reflection it was. If incompetence had a face, it would be hers, wearing that strained smile she flashes every time someone mentions immigration, Ukraine, or literally any topic requiring a real answer. The saddest part, she actually thinks it's going well. Like the band on the Titanic, she's playing through the iceberg, fiddling while credibility sinks. Gutfeld was just the guy pointing to the lifeboats and laughing, while she tried to plug hole breaches with optimism and confetti. And somehow, the media nods along, pretending this is fine, as if her verbal Jenga tower isn't collapsing every 20 seconds.
On the order form.
Oh my God.
All those applications you gotta fill out.
That's the thing.
What'd you think I meant, vaginas?
Ew.
Disgusting people. But now everyone says she's incompetent and lazy. You know, after they called me racist for saying that. That's not why I'm racist.
Nope.
Gutfeld doesn't need a debate stage. Just hand him a Karine clip and let him go. The absurdity writes itself. Her crisis management strategy is essentially CTRL plus Alt plus Delete. Her response to criticism, duck and cover. And her boldest stance to date, rearranging. We remain firmly committed, like a motivational fridge magnet. She's the human version of buffering. Ask her a question, wait 7 seconds, and still get a spinning wheel of vagueness. Gutfeld didn't destroy her. She walked in carrying a box of roasted marshmallows and soaked herself in lighter fluid. If this administration were a sitcom, Karine would be the character who bursts in with confusing exposition, then trips over the coffee table. And Gutfeld, he's the laugh track but live. This isn't political theater anymore. It's political karaoke, and Karine keeps picking the same off-key song, forgetting the lyrics halfway through. Every press conference feels like a choose-your-own adventure book written by someone who's never finished a sentence. Gutfeld didn't have to prepare. Karine came pre-clowned. He just pointed at the circus and let her juggle her way into oblivion. She's not spinning facts. She's throwing them into a blender and hoping the noise drowns out the lack of substance. And let's be honest, this isn't about ideology. It's about competence. And Karine Jean-Pierre has the political competence of a potato in a tuxedo. Sure, she looks the part, but instead of a policy briefing, we get a live demonstration of what happens when performance meets paralysis. So Gutfeld, armed with nothing but sarcasm and basic cognitive function, sat back and watched Karine perform her greatest illusion, yet pretending she has credibility left to burn. It wasn't a destruction, it was a wake. The coffin was already packed with every answer she never gave. By now, her briefings have morphed into surrealist performances like interpretive dance through a fog of bureaucratic nonsense. She spits out riddles, half-baked truths, and metaphors, so twisted even a fortune cookie would hide in shame. Ask her about the border, and you'll get a story about infrastructure. Mention inflation, and she launches into an anecdote about lemon farming and equity. By the time she finishes a sentence, not only is the question forgotten, but the audience has aged 5 years and now qualifies for Social Security, and yet she delivers every word with the smug confidence of someone who genuinely believes they just crushed a TED Talk. That's what finally broke Gutfeld, not her answers, but her pride in being so consistently wrong. He didn't destroy her. He simply held up a spotlight. The real headline isn't Gutfeld roasts Karine, it's there was still something left to roast.